Hi friends, my name is Rahul Jain. I'm a SEBI registered research analyst. On 14th of April, Hitachi and Adani Energy came out with this announcement, which is HVDC city center in Mumbai that is going to power through electricity for 20 million people in Mumbai. Now this is a step change in the energy sector of India, okay, and it has sent a few stocks that are operating under HVDC theme into huge momentum. If you go and look at few stocks, you will find that the prices have gone crazy in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Now what is HVDC? What is the tailwind behind this particular theme? I'm going to run you through in this video, and also we're going to talk about top 3 companies in this particular segment. This is not a temporary momentum in my view. It's likely to last up until 2032. So a good tailwind theme for the next 5 to 7 years. Every word I speak, I'll back it by data. The only request I have is that watch this video without skipping, because throughout this video, I'm going to teach you practical insights about stock investing. If you're new to my channel, please do not subscribe to my channel. Watch this content for 5 to 6 minutes, and if you feel that you've got some good insights, some good valuable lessons for yourself, then become a lifelong member of this channel. With that, let me get this video cracking. So the very first question, what is HVDC? Okay, so first thing I need to explain to you is the problem that we are facing right now in India. Okay, so in India, we have good renewable energy capacity. We have a lot of solar plants, wind plants, etc. Okay, in the last 10 years, we have made tremendous efforts to set up renewable energy power plants. Okay, but the biggest problem we are facing right now is that if we are generating power, let's say in Rajasthan, because there is good sun there, okay, how do I transmit this power that I have generated to Mumbai? Okay, Mumbai is far, far away. So the question of transmission of the power from one place to another place is something that we are struggling with right now. Okay, now in order to solve this problem, Indian government, Power Ministry, October 2024 created National Electricity Plan Transmission. Okay, very, very important plan. Allow me 30 seconds of time. What they are saying is that by 2030, they should be ready to be able to transmit 500 gigawattage of renewable energy installed. Okay, and over 600 gigawattage up until 2032, because there is no point in having solar power plant, wind power plant if we cannot transmit this power where it is needed. Okay, and also we do not have a lot of storage in our India. So battery energy storage solution, that's another theme that someday I'll speak about. It's also equally important. Okay, but current problem is that we are not able to transmit this power effectively, efficiently, with cost effectiveness. Therefore, CEA, which is the Central Electricity Authority, have created this plan, and they are saying that as per this National Electricity Plan, we are going to transmit around 191,000 circuit kilometer of transmission lines all over India. This is a big infrastructure work that government is undertaking in the next 7 years. How much money government is going to spend on that? The data they have given is 9,15,000 crores of transmission work up until 2032. That's the target government has set up. In addition, they have set up 33 gigawattage of HVDC bipole links they are planned. Now, what is HVDC? So for us to understand HVDC, first we need to understand how do we transmit electricity from point A to point B. Again, allow me only 30 seconds. So 2 ways. High voltage alternate current, which is HVAC transmission. You can see that diagram here. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not going to explain it to you because I'm going to get it wrong. Okay. Second is high voltage direct current, which is HVDC transmission. As an investor, what I need to know is which one is more cost effective and where is the money going to be invested by Indian government. Okay. So here is the data point for us that HVDC, after 800 kilometers of transmission line or the distance, HVDC is more cost effective by around 5 to 10%. In HVDC, the upfront cost is definitely higher because it needs a bit heavy infrastructure in terms of the cost, etc. But if we are transmitting power from far away, 800 kilometers upward, then HVDC makes a lot of sense. Okay. The second important advantage of HVDC is that when you're transmitting power from point A to point B, in HVDC, we do not lose a lot of electricity. In HVAC, we lose a lot of electricity. So it's a waste of electricity. Okay. Now, the third point that you need to know is that by 2032, what is likely to happen? So if you see, concentrate on HVAC here and the green bars, what you notice that up until 2027, government's focus was on HVAC, which is used primarily for the short-term distribution. Let's say within the state, if you have to transfer electricity, then that is where HVAC is very, very useful. But HVDC, if you see, only 20% of the work has been done up until 2027 or will be done up until 2027. 80% of the work is likely to happen between 2027 and 2032. That is why precisely there is a huge tailwind that is coming from government side. Around $59 billion is likely to be spent up until 2032, out of which around 18 billion is likely to be in HVDC systems. Okay. Now HVDC itself is a big ecosystem. Which stocks are we likely to talk about? So I'm going to talk about 3 companies in this particular video now. None of these are recommendations, but it will teach you a lot about HVDC and what's happening in these companies. Extremely important commentary I'll give you in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So far, if you're liking this video, request you to hit the like button. Let me know in the comments a simple thank you. And also hit the subscribe button so that you do not miss out on critical videos coming up your way. With that, let me go to stock number 1. The first company is Power Grid Corporation of India Limited. Whenever we are talking about transmission distribution, Power Grid Corporation of India Limited has to be in your mind, top of your mind. This is one of the company that is taking almost 45% market share when it comes to transmissions. Okay. Now, if you look at this company's FI positions, they are very strong. In fact, in the March 2026, it has gone up to around 25.02%, DI is around 20.05%, and promoters, which is government of India, 51.34%, right? Now, if I give you 3 to 4 minutes commentary about this particular company so that you understand the main highlights of this company, couple of things. Number one is that from a transmission lines perspective, they have done around 1575 transmission lines pan India, around 1,84,000 circuit kilometers. And I'll talk about the second company and we'll also compare it. That's why I've talked about this. They have already done 11 HVDC projects in India. So they understand this particular domain. Now, if I talk about this company's financials, for example, if I go to their profit and loss statement, you will see that, you know what, top line, there is no growth at all. If you see, okay, in the last 4 to 5 years, very, very flat. If you look at the profits, no growth. Why are we talking about this particular company? 2 or 3 reasons that you need to understand. See, the first reason that you need to understand is that this entire national electricity plan was announced in October 2024, which is fiscal year FY25. Okay. And when a policy is announced, it takes at least a year or 2 for it to get some legs and hands. Okay. Therefore, what you will note is that before FY25, nothing much is happening in this particular company in terms of the top line as well as bottom line. That is reason number 1. Reason number 2 is that there were a lot of right of ways issues, ROW issues, meaning that transmission lines, they need land to be acquired. Okay. And people are not readily giving their land if they are not getting good value from government. Okay. There were a lot of ROW issues. Now, the management very recently have said, you can read this commentary here, that a lot of these ROW issues government is trying to solve, because government knows if they're not going to solve this issue, then they can't really lay down transmission line network, HVDC or HVAC, whichever one, because of these land issues. Therefore, you see government has increased the land rates, 30% for rural area, 45% for semi-urban area, 60% for urban area, etc. So a lot of these issues have been solved very, very recently. That is point number 2. Point number 3 is that if you look at the capex planning by this company, note, until FY24, not major uplift in the capex. But see what happened in FY25, almost doubled. FY26, you see, again 35,000 crores. And up until FY28, the talks are that they're going to hit 45,000 crores of capex, right? So it means after this national electricity plan has been published in FY25, we clearly see a lot of momentum in terms of their capex, right? Now, whether this will lead to the growth in the top line and profitability, I do not know that, and you do not know that. That is something that we will see in future only. But if I were to take a wild guess, I am thinking maybe 10% growth, not more than that. In fact, I found this particular report on the internet where an analyst have done some predictions here, and they're talking about earning per share growing by almost, let's say, 10% by FY28. But again, that is very short term. We also have to look at like FY 2032, because a lot of work will happen up until 2032, right? So I've given you 3 reasons as to why all of a sudden investors are giving some attention to this particular company. Now, is this company free of risk? Absolutely not. First of all, it's a government company, it's a Sarkari company. Secondly, it is B2B business. So in the investing world, please understand, you have to pick the types of stock that you want to bet on. Okay, do you really want to bet on B2B companies, which are government companies? That is a bigger level call that you have to take before you even go down to their business model, capex, order flow, etc. Because tomorrow, if government policy changes, something happens, then what is likely to happen? There might be a bad news. stock might crash. These are the risks that you need to go and make sure that you are aware of and you're baking into your investing thesis. Don't just go and blindly buy a company because maybe there is good capex happening or whatever. Okay. These are the points that you need to remember. If I come to the valuations now, let's go and have a look at valuations here. So for example, from a PE ratio perspective, median in the last 5 has been 12.4 and it is now at 19.1. You will ask, it is very, very high. But as I said, compare it from last, for example, FY25 onwards. Okay, because this is where the announcement came out. So maybe around 15 PE. Okay, that is the drop that we saw in February 2025, or maybe just take a last 1 year's P. Where is the median P? 17.4. It is right now at 19.1. Okay, can it come down to below median P and be at around like 15? Maybe, right? It is entirely possible. If a bad news hits this particular company, it is entirely possible that the PE might compress. Okay, these are the scenarios you need to play with, and according to your risk appetite, you have to go and look at these companies. So this is stock number 1, which is Power Grid Corporation of India Limited. I haven't gone into the details of their business model, etc., because that is going to take at least 1 hour of my time to explain all of that. Therefore, let's stop it here and move to the second company, which is a competitor of Power Grid Corporation of India, but it's a private company. The name of the company is Adani Energy Solutions Limited. Now, let me give you 2 to 3 minutes of commentary about Adani Energy Solutions Limited. Okay, first point is that because Adani Energy and Hitachi, their joint venture or their joint partnership, they set up this 1000 megawatt of HVDC link, right? That is going to give electricity for 20 million people in Mumbai. Investors are now thinking, if they can do it in one city, then surely they can do this model across multiple cities in India, right? Because this is sort of like a proof of concept, right? That's where investors always bet in terms of the possible upside in the business, right? And maybe that's why the companies like Adani Energy Solutions Limited are buzzing right now. Go and check the price. I'm not going to talk about that, but here is what you need to know from a business model perspective. They have done in terms of transmissions around 27,949 circuit kilometers. Remember in Power Grid, I talked about 1,84,000 circuit kilometers. Here it is around 27,000 circuit kilometers. So Adani is much more smaller. But the big difference between Power Grid and Adani is what? Adani is a privately owned company. Okay, they can venture into multiple businesses. But Power Grid, this has a government saying, this has a government's control. For example, Adani here, they ventured into smart metering. Huge project. Okay, they're still doing it, they're still executing it, and that's why if you note, their growth is very high as compared to Power Grid. Okay, overall, if you see in FY26, if you look at adjusted PAT, grew by around 32%. Total income went up by around 16%. So this company is growing somewhere between 20 to 30% from an EPS perspective versus Power Grid that have hardly grown in the last 5 years. Understand the difference between the Power Grid and Adani from a private and public ownership perspective, right? Now, a lot of people will be pissed off with, Adani is corrupt, etc. I'm not getting into any of that allegations. I'm just looking at purely from a business perspective. Yes, definitely that is a risk from an investor's perspective, that tomorrow what happens if another case surfaces at Adani Group level? All the companies get hammered down. We have seen that in the past, right? That risk always remains with Adani Group companies, that you do not know what happens tomorrow with the Adani companies. Okay. Now coming to other points here in terms of the capex. If you look, very similar position here in FY25, the capex has gone to 11,000 crore, FY26 around 14,000 crore. So from FY25 onwards, you will note that these companies are doing a lot of capex. Why? Because of the backing, because of the national electricity plan that I talked about in the beginning of the video. Very, very simple logic that we can follow here, that capex is likely to be there. Okay. Now, if I talk about this company's financials, so for example, if I come back and talk about financials here, you will note that March 2026, 2,393 crores of profits they have done. Huge growth in last 12 months, because again, they are getting a lot of projects. Okay. Can this sustain? We do not know. Okay. We do not know for sure, but as of now, there is a good momentum that these companies are building because of these announcements that are happening. Okay. If I talk about the EPS projections, I found this report on internet. This is not my report, but in this report, the analyst is talking about around 20 to 30% of growth in EPS up until FY28. You can read the EPS numbers, do some maths. Between 20 to 30% is what you will get. One of the important thing about these businesses that you need to understand is the debt to equity ratios, very, very high. Okay. In case of Adani, net debt to equity 1.6 in FY25, 1.7 in FY26. This is very, very basic nature of these businesses. These are capex heavy businesses. They will have to take leverage, they have to take debt, and therefore net debt to equity, if you will see, very, very high. Same is the case with Power Grid. Okay, so all in all, if you see, these are the main headlines about Adani Energy Solutions Limited. If you look at the valuation, so if you go to charts here, look at the PE ratio. Last 3 years PE ratio, median has been around 67, right? Very recently it dropped to around 37. Maybe these were very good points, okay, in terms of the PE. Now it has soared back to 75 because of the momentum that the companies are picking up. Okay, last 1 year if you see, okay, median have been 51 and now it is at 75. Very, very high PE right now. Okay, why I am not looking at 5 year, 10 years? Because as I said, the entire theme started from FY25 onwards. There is no point in comparing what happened 5 years back here, because the tailwinds have just appeared. Therefore, they are now trading at premium. This is exactly how you can look at the companies in perspective, and that's what I wanted to really share my point of view. That first of all, do you want to get into businesses like these, which are heavy debt related, which are heavy capex related, which are B2B sort of businesses? Because it's very important that you pick up the stocks that you can, understand. And if you like B2B businesses, then it's fine. But if you don't like B2B businesses, then you have to be really cautious about that. So this is on Adani Energy Solutions Limited. If you like this analysis, request you to hit the like button. Let me know in the comments a simple thank you. It motivates me a lot to do a lot of research for you and bring you quality content at zero cost. If you also want to join my exclusive premium community on YouTube, feel free to do that. Almost on a daily basis, I am posting insights about stock market, the sectors, the stocks, right? Without giving any buy sell recommendations. You're going to learn a lot in that. Feedback of that community has been very, very good. Simply go to my channel, subscribe to the channel and find the join button for the community and be my guest. With that, let's move to company number 3 now. The third company that I want to quickly talk about is Hitachi Energy India Limited. Okay, very, very important company that you need to know about. Okay, now this company is very, very different from Power Grid and Adani Energy. Why? Because they are not into transmission business. They are actually into making or manufacturing products that are used in the transmission. So it doesn't matter whether the transmission is done by Adani or for that matter Power Grid, right? Whoever needs the products for transmission, they are into business. For example, transformers. For example, high voltage products, because all of these transmission work that happen over long distances, they are done on a very, very high voltage. Okay, so you need high voltage products. You have grid integrations, which is one of the biggest problem right now India faces in terms of, you have the power supply coming, but the grids are not integrated. So grid integration solutions, grid automation. So these are the 4 categories of the products that the business operate in. Okay. Now, if I talk about this company's couple of important points, because you need to understand what has happened in the last 2-3 years with this company. First of all, 1989, they had set up the first HVDC transmission link for NTPC. So they do understand this particular business segment. But more importantly, in 22-23, they set up factories for HVDC and power quality factories in Chennai and Bangalore. Okay. Now see what happened after that to share price in 22-23. If you go and have a look at what happened to the share price from 23 onwards, see how it picked up. Okay. Why? Because they went into HVDC businesses, and investors who spotted this opportunity that HVDC businesses in India are likely to see tailwind, because this is a bottleneck right now. They are the ones who really made good money. And this is where I think I'm also learning that how do you visualize the future? What do you see next 2 to 3 years down the line? What are the things that are likely to boom, which are not right now booming? Okay, that is where a lot of investing comes into picture in terms of can you visualize? Okay, but again, coming back to the company's profitability, you will see again, March 2025, the profits almost doubled from 164 to 384 crores, and last trailing 12 months have been around 841 crore, almost 2.5 times. Okay, slightly more than 2 times. Okay, so a lot of profitability is coming into picture. And if you read their Q3 con call, Q4 is not yet out when I'm recording this video, but therefore if you go back to Q3, what you will notice that their orders grew by around 73% year on year basis. They're sitting on order backlog all time high. Okay, lot of projects they are winning, and we saw Adani Energy and Hitachi, they launching that Mumbai HVDC link, right? I talked about that in the beginning of the video, right? If I talk about the order books shape up, okay, from FY24 to almost FY26, you see how it has been almost gone to four times. 7,500 crore used to be in FY24 start. It is now 29,000 crore, 4 times. Okay, visibility of the revenues is very, very high in companies like this right now, and that's why if you look at the last 3 years PE ratio, etc., PE ratio is right now at around 165, very, very high PE. Okay, if you look at the last 1 year, 160 P is still very, very high. It used to trade at around 225, 230 P. Why? Because investors are anticipating 4 times, 3 times growth in their EPS in the next few years. It is not a short-term momentum. It is likely to sustain in 2032. And this is how you go and look at these companies. Question is there still a lot of work remaining? Yes, 100% there is a lot of work remaining. For entry point and exit point in these companies, you will have to do technical analysis, which I unfortunately cannot cover because I'm not allowed to show last 3 months of price data because of SEBI's rules. Okay, that is counted as an investment advice if I show you that data. Okay, therefore I can't do that unfortunately, but I hope these 3 stock commentary and overall theme about HVDC, you've understood a lot. The entire intent is to teach you something new almost on every video that I try to bring. And if you like that, request you to hit the like button, share this video with your friends and family, subscribe to my channel so that you get timely inputs about what's happening around the investing world. And also look at my community. If you like to become a community member, you are most welcome. With that, I'm going to see you in my next video. Until then, keep rocking.